everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode 86. This is the first show I'm recording after Body Power. One might think that I'm tired, dejected, want a rest, what a day off, but no, you hustle, you get round to it, you carry on, and I feel really good after Body Power, to be honest. And actually, the person that I'm interviewing today was also at Body Power. She solicited me at the show. She was like, "Hey Ben," and I was like, "Hey, hello, who are you?" And then she told me her name, and I was like, yes, okay, hello. And I mean, you meet an awful lot of people at Body Power. It's a confusing and crazy place. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. My guest for today, hello, Serene.
Hello, how are you?
Let's try and pronounce your second name. Husseini?
Husseini.
Wrong. Husseini.
Husseini, yes.
Did you get teased at school and get called Houdini?
No, I got called Saddam a few times.
Ooh, that sounds a bit harsh though.
It is a bit harsh.
Ouch. If I was a bully, because obviously I'd be a funny bully, I'd call you Houdini and ask for a magic trick.
That's much nicer.
Yeah, it is. That's friendly banter. So, for people that are listening that have no Scooby-Doo who you are, who are you?
So, I'm Serene Husseini, as we've said, and I'm 25 years old, and I am primarily a gym owner. So, I've taken over a gym in the last 2 years, which I own, and I'm also a UK BFF body fitness competitor. So, I have been competing for the last 2 years in body fitness. So, that's my two main sort of things in my life anyway.
Awesome. So for people, we haven't really talked about kind of female competing quite in this sense before. For people that don't know, what's the difference between body fitness, physique, like the different ways that a female steps on stage?
Okay, so the bikini is sort of the lean, beach body look, little bit of muscle tone, but nothing too much. The body fitness then is a step up from that. So we're looking for a little bit more condition, a little bit more muscularity. And then the physique obviously is an even more exaggerated version again. So even more size, even more condition. Right. So it's just sort of like a tiered system.
Of course. Okay, got you. Because, I mean, you would have encountered it. I've encountered it. You know, people come to us and they say, "Do you know what? I'd quite fancy getting on stage. I think it's a good challenge." But you know, they have no idea of what class they might want to go in, should go in. And I suppose we're getting into some content already here. Do you kind of look at a female and would you make that decision straight away, or would their journey kind of dictate where they might be able to enter into a class?
I think majority of the time it's strikingly obvious where they should go. I would never be a bikini competitor because they tend to be sort of longer legged, sort of, you know, longer armed, leaner bodies sort of thing. And I'm more of a stocky build. I mean, in terms of body types, I'm more of an endomesomorph. So I hold a lot of fat. I'm more stocky. I hold muscle quite well. I build muscle quite well. So for me, it was natural to go straight to body fitness. I mean, some girls like to start at bikini and then progress. But for me, it was obvious. And I think for a lot of girls, it's quite obvious where they should go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're a gym owner. I'm always interested in people's gyms and, you know, the type of people that come, the type of people that you attract. Where is your gym? And, you know, what is it geared up for?
Okay, so the gym is in Loughborough in the Midlands. I don't know if you know it. It's quite a big sporting town. And we're mainly to do with strength athletes, performance-based. Now, it's funny, actually, because I part-own it with my partner and James, another guy. So James is an Olympic lifter. I'm a bodybuilder and my partner's a power lifter. So we all compete in those three industries. So we're kind of strength-based, muscle building, essentially. But obviously we do get the sort of the guys and girls that just come to like tone up, get fitter, jump on the treadmill, those kind of things as well. But yeah, majority of people sort of are looking at building muscle.
Okay, cool. And Well, you've always got to cater to those people. That is, that's a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast. Will have a huge mix of people that like to train for performance, like to just train to look good. So we've got to cater for all that stuff. And as much as I think any gym owner would like to think, oh, I'm going to build a gym and train all the best people that want to Olympic lift and do all that kind of stuff, it's kind of a minority of the population. I suppose it's our job as coaches to take what we might describe as more normal individuals and actually inspire them to be those more high performing individuals, and that's probably what your gym's trying to do, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, you get a few people that sort of come in just to, like I say, just to keep fit, and then they'll see James lifting or me lifting and go, oh, I'm kind of interested in that. How, like, will you coach me through some moves and stuff? So it's funny how people do tend to sort of gear towards that once they've seen it and been around it. So
nice. Okay, so let's talk about you being as a competitor, because we haven't talked too much about this on the show before, and I think female competition, especially stepping on stage, is riddled with dogma. It's riddled with, I think it's still got a lot of problems, and I encounter a lot of those problems as a coach, especially a coach that I suppose has a bit of a name for helping people when they're in a bit of a rough spot. Yeah. What are some of the problems that you find in the sport at the moment? And I suppose through your work and being a coach, how are you trying to counteract those issues?
So I think there are a lot of girls that are under eating massively, overtraining, having these sports professionals and coaches and people like that possibly leading them down the wrong path. So that it's becoming unhealthy. I mean, it's hard to, you've got to understand that obviously 8 weeks prior to competition, things are going to get tough and it is going to be hard. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. But I think that there's just, people are, turning to quick sort of ways of getting around, getting lean and stuff, like spending days doing HIIT and, really, really burning themselves out to dangerous levels, I think. So, I mean, there's not a lot I can do. Everybody that I look after or I coach, I will tell them who to go to for advice, or I'll help to give them some healthy advice or tell them where I think they need to reassess. But obviously it is quite dangerous because people just think, oh, if he's a health professional, then he knows what he's talking about, or she knows what she's talking about, so I'll just do what they say. But I think you have to be careful, obviously, because health is important. And when you're competing, yes, you are trying to get, very, very lean. But you've still got to keep health at the forefront, I think, and, not do too drastic things.
Sure. I had a rant about this on Facebook a little while ago about how, I was a bit fed up with having to deal with people that have these misconceptions about competing and what kind of sacrifices you have to give. Like you said, in the 6 to 8 weeks before a show, things can get a little bit rough. You're going to have to go through a few hard spots. It's going to get a little tough. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be tired. But, this kind of stuff shouldn't be happening like 16, 20 weeks out from a competition. And I suppose if we can do one thing today by you and me chatting, it's kind of how do we give people enough information to question what their coach is doing? Because, what we're not trying to do is make people anti-coaching in any way, but I think people need to be aware of when there might be problems within their coaching environment, and rather than just saying, oh, I can't say anything to my coach, or oh, he knows best, I suppose, what are the signs that we can say to people, look, if this is happening to you, you need to go to your coach, get a rational answer, find out why you're actually doing this stuff and whether it's necessary, and maybe find out if other people are going through the same problems as well. Because if not, you might need to change coach.
Yeah, that's it. I think you hit the nail on the head with finding out about other people's experiences. I think we need to talk more openly about it and share, competitor to competitor should see what other people are doing. I mean, obviously it's going to vary because we're all different. We've all got different bodies. We all need different amounts of cardio and carbs, etc., etc. But I think it's important to talk about it and to understand that, 6 to 8 weeks out, like we said, is going to be the rough time. But you shouldn't feel like this all year round. You shouldn't be, drained. You shouldn't be, day in, day out. Yeah, the odd day you might feel awful, but it shouldn't. If you're feeling awful for a week on the trot, there's something, not right, I think, in my personal opinion anyway, in my experience.
Of course, but then I suppose I could counter-argument that and say, if we just talked about it more, would it resolve itself? But the problem is, some of these competitive environments are so insular that when they talk amongst themselves, that is the norm. We had a client as part of Body Type Nutrition, and we were coaching her. She was going down the right path. She was a competitor. Things were going slowly. We were trying to fix a few things at the same time. And her environment, she was the alien. She was the alien in her environment. Everyone else was doing an hour of cardio a day, an hour of weights in the evening, was on like 1,200 calories, was feeling tired. And because that was the norm, despite her getting results, they put pressure on her. And when she wasn't losing weight quick enough, they really turned the screw and said, well, you need to lose 3/4 of a stone in 5 weeks. Otherwise, you're in big trouble. I mean, for an environment that's meant to promote health and sport, that's a really dangerous thing to say to someone. You need to lose 3/4 of a stone.
Well, that situation should never have come about. There should never have been a time when, you've got 5 weeks to lose 3/4 of a stone. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And I think that's why people need to go and find or listen to the names in the industry that are really making a lot of high quality information on this stuff. Like, I've just toured the UK with Lane Norton, and the guy would not shut up about this kind of stuff, in a positive way, saying that all this stuff needs to be done really, really slowly. All this stuff needs to be done really, really consistently. You're going to hit a little rough spot and you change things up a little bit, and then you make sure you reverse dieting out of the back end of the process so that you regain health in the appropriate way. But I mean, there's still a huge environment where everyone's ignoring these facts, but we're now in an environment where everything is so... It's the norm to just kill yourself and feel crap all the time in vain of having a set of abs. It's kind of tough to think, well, what do we do to help people?
That's another thing that I was talking about to somebody at the Body Power, that unless you feel rubbish and you feel drained, you sort of don't feel like that. To us, that means something's happening, it's successful. Do you know what I mean? And it shouldn't be that way. It just, if you feel like, if comp prep, I was saying comp prep sometimes feels quite easy and comfortable, and then I think to myself, oh God, I'm not doing something right because this can't be right. I can't be, I must, I need to step it up because clearly I need to be suffering, basically. And and I think that's normal, and I think it's wrong, but I think it is there in the back of our minds a lot of the time.
Well, hopefully people will start to realise that they don't have to suffer. And it's funny because I coach individuals, and it gets around. I'm coaching someone at the moment to go on stage, and we've started the diet process. It's kind of like 16 weeks out. We're going to take a gradual approach, and because of this environment, there's always a doubt element, and there's an email that sort of says, "Oh, well, should we be doing more?" And I'm like, No, we're losing about 1.5 pounds a week. That's absolutely perfect. That will take you into the stage perfectly. Don't worry. But because there's all this, and this is where women are awful at it. There's so much chitter chatter between each other to say, "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing that. My coach is doing this." And I think this is where it takes a little bit of narrow-mindedness from people to say, "No, I'm going in the right direction. Brilliant. Stay on track. My coach knows what's best. Don't listen to other people."
That's it. A coach is very, very important, even for me as well, because we do want to flip out, especially when it comes close to the competition, because we start to freak out, and it's hard to look at yourself, objectively. So you really need that coach there to say, calm down, everything's under control, everything's fine. But yeah, definitely.
So looking at the notes from when we were talking about what we might talk about on the show, you mentioned someone called Eddie. Is this your coach?
Yes, Eddie Abu, yes.
Okay, and does he look after you all year round? Do you kind of get in touch with him at a certain period of time? How does your kind of comp prep work? Give us an insight.
Okay, so I always start working with him 16 weeks out from a competition. But I do keep in contact with him through the off season. However, I know enough now to sort of go on my own mostly. But if I've got any problems or any questions, obviously I'll just contact him straight away and say, can you come and look at me? is this a good diet plan to follow, whatever. But yeah, generally we work 16 weeks out from a competition together.
Okay, cool. And give me, where are you at right now?
So at the moment I am 8 weeks out from the big invitational, Summer Invitational. So that's a really big show. So that's my big one. And then I might jump in and do the Bedford qualifier, which is in 5 weeks, only if I'm ready and, I look right.
Okay, sure. So let's give people an insight. People want some nuts and bones. You're in a diet phase. What are you kind of eating right now? What are you training? How does it look?
Okay, so this week is actually, it's kind of funny that you picked this week. This week is a bit of a depletion week for me. So I pulled out most of my carbs just for 1 week, basically to give my body a bit of a shock. So this is, because me and Eddie have worked together for 2 years now, we know how my body works. And we'll diet for the first sort of 6 weeks. Nothing will happen much. I'll lose a little bit of weight, but nothing really will change. And my body seems quite resilient. I think it's sort of the endomorphic tendencies. Nothing happens. And then we just give it a little bit of a shock, kick up the bum, like for a couple of weeks, 1 or 2 weeks, we take a lot of my carbs out, and then my metabolism will fire up. And then from then on, I tend to eat more closer to competition. My calories actually tend to go up because my metabolism actually finally kicks in. So for me, it's kind of, I think I'm quite a weird one in that I don't drop nice and evenly like most people do. Mm-hmm. Sort of a pound a week. It's sort of nothing. Oh my God, is anything going to happen? Then we give it a little bit of a kick. And then my metabolism will race. So I think the first competition we did, I was eating Burger King 2 days out from stage because my metabolism went crazy and we were like, oh my God, we've got to up my calories. It was nuts. It was so weird. I'm
not sure we should have shared that information with everyone else that we're endorsing the Burger King pre-competition.
I know, but I needed food and I needed it quick.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And what does your training look like coming into competition?
My training actually doesn't change that much throughout the whole year. I will do, it will probably get a little bit more intense. So I'll probably do a lot more drop sets, supersets, things like that. But generally speaking, it stays pretty much the same all year round. Quite heavy, 8 to 10 reps. Which is heavy for me, heavy for a bodybuilder. Yeah. And sort of, basic, nothing too fancy. I sort of stick to the basics, stick to the, simple. I don't try and over fancy anything.
Okay, cool. And I suppose obviously this is a big talking point in any kind of fitness circle, but the age-old debate of cardio versus HIIT, or should we say low intensity steady state cardio versus high intensity. What do you prefer? Does it change at any point? Do you have a preference kind of personally, or what works for you?
I do less only. I only do low intensity stuff. I mean, in the off season when I've got a bit more energy and I'm, wanting to do sprints and stuff, I will do a bit of HIIT training. But talking about pre-contest, it's always less because I just don't think when you're restricting calories and carbs and things like that, especially sort of very close to competition, who's got the energy to go out and sprint? And I prefer to sit on a bike, cycle away, nice and steady, fat burning, watch TV, read a book, research, whatever. I just think it's a lot less stressful on the body, and I think it's just my preference, and that's what works for me. Okay. So I'll do more of it. I'll probably do a lot more hours than most people cardio wise, but it is very, very low intensity. It doesn't stress me out. It's not an issue, So that's what I choose to do.
Okay. And that's an interesting point, actually. Well, 2 interesting points. A, you've kind of got a bit of a formula that has worked for you, so you're obviously sticking with it. And, I always say to my clients, look, what we're doing is working. There's no point changing it. Like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And low intensity can work just as well as high intensity, but I suppose some people's counter argument would be that you could do the same in less amount of time. But everyone responds to things differently, and I know a huge amount of people that when they diet, you're right, their overall oomph or energy does, it does decline a bit. And if you're 6 weeks out and this is kind of happening, then absolutely, kind of fine. So with your training, would you say you're an individual that tends to up their training or add cardio instead of potentially reducing calories?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I would rather do another hour cardio in the evening before I go to bed than pull food out, ideally.
Okay. Because you're basically a food monster, is what you're saying.
I'm a food monster, exactly. I love food.
But this is good because most people, and this is where we have a problem with bad coaching in my eyes. Coach comes in 16 weeks out, it's like, right, we'll drop the calories, we'll put in the cardio, we'll put in the weight training, and this is the problem. There's no tools left in the bag. What do you do when you hit a plateau? So the coach then says, well, we'll eat less and we'll do a bit more cardio. You get a little bit of a short-term effect. You burn the wick at both ends a bit more. And I suppose, and I'd hope you'd agree, this is where we have the problem with very overworked and very under-eating females that are damaged from their contest preparation.
Yep, exactly. And then obviously you've got the issue of post-competition. So what do you do once the competition's over? And how do you sort of, the whole reverse dieting thing, and how do you do it safely so that you're not harming, your metabolism or damaging yourself in any way? So I think there's a lot of girls as well that maybe some coaches that sort of tell the girls what to do to the stage, but then afterwards there's nothing. So they end up binge eating, they don't have a sort of protocol in place. And that again can be very unhealthy and can be very damaging to the body.
Mm. You mentioned when you come into competition, you almost start eating more because your metabolism revs up again. It sounds like you almost start to reverse diet into your competition.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's bizarre.
It is, but then the metabolism is an incredibly adaptive thing if you know how to kind of work it and you know how to listen to your body.
Yeah. And
I assume that when you hit your competition, you almost just continue that reverse diet wave as you come out and how do you increase your calories after your competition? What's your method?
Well, what I do normally, I have like a cheat meal or whatever after the competition and have some chocolate and some sugar and whatnot, and get that kind of out of my system just in one meal. And then the next day I have a diet plan written up, so that I'll incorporate different foods. Like if I haven't had eggs or whatever in my contest prep and I fancy some eggs, then I'll put eggs in, or Greek yogurt or something. I'll introduce food slowly and carefully, but they'll still be healthy, clean foods. I won't be, eating breads and pastas and things that might sort of disrupt, digestion and gut health and all things like that. So I think you have to just do it gradually, have a plan in place and just increase calories gradually or carbs gradually, until, you get back up to whatever, a normal amount or...
Sure. Okay. And is there, just out of me being a geek really, is there stuff that you don't include in your diet because they're problematic for maybe your gut health or your performance, your brain health?
Yes. Well, I don't, there's a few things I don't eat. I don't eat pasta, for instance, but that's partly to do with health reasons, and partly to do with because I'm not that keen on it. Breads as well, I tend to keep away from anyway. What else don't I eat? Obviously don't eat processed foods and things. I mean, because it's become a lifestyle for me, I don't even think about it. Mm. I just tend to gear towards the fresh meats, the healthy fruits and vegetables. But yeah, I am a bit weird with gluten and lactose, like milk and stuff I will have, but I don't overdo, or I have almond or coconut or a different variety.
Okay. Okay, cool. Because I think, if there is any even slightly mild intolerance in any way, these foods have surely got to be out 100% leading up to the contest because of any potential water retention, lethargy, well, a plethora of things, but I suppose these kind of things shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't touch any of these things like leading up to a competition at all. Because even if there's not an intolerance there, like you said, there's a chance. And obviously you don't want to come stage day, you don't want to ruin your condition or your look on stage. So it's not worth the risk. Okay.
And do you have a particular kind of routine leading up, like the couple of days leading up into your show? Are you a fan of manipulating water, carbohydrate content, salt content? What's your methods? Because I know there's 100 different ways to dice this stuff.
Okay, so I don't do anything with salt or sodium. I've never I have salt generally day to day, but I don't do anything with it. I haven't needed to. I pull my water a little bit before show so that I'm obviously look a little bit drier, but nothing too crazy. And in terms of carbs, I'll obviously do a few days depletion and then I'll carb load for a day or two before. So that just means potatoes and rice and things like that. So,
okay.
So, yeah.
And actually, you saying that, when I last prepped, the last person I prepped, Naomi, I did exactly the same thing. I think we depleted for 4 days. And then we did a depletion like 2 weeks out. We tested it. So we did a depletion for 4 days. And we noticed that she looked her best the evening of the second day. Yeah. So that is exactly how we did it into a contest. And I think, there's so many people, that will, and you'll get it. People will email you and they're like, right, I'm a week out. What should I do a week out? And I'm like, well, sorry, there's no way you can trial it now. You should have practiced that almost 4 weeks ago. You should have had a little dummy run.
Yeah, definitely. And like because everybody's so different as well, everybody will have a different protocol. It's very difficult to say, especially if you can't see the person. You're like, well, what do you look like? I don't know what you should do.
Yeah. And then you've got to rely on the description of them of what they look like, and they'll probably tell you they look fat anyway.
Yeah. Probably.
No, that's interesting. And I've always found, I don't know what you're like in your day-to-day diet, I've always found that women never really function well at any point on a low-carb environment. Do you tend to have a kind of moderate or sensible amount of carbs in your diet normally?
In the off-season, when I choose what I want to eat, it's predominantly low-carb, high-fat. I love fats. Uh-huh. And I'm not a big carb person. When I do have a lot of carbs, it makes me feel tired, they make me feel bloated, generally don't make me feel well at all. Okay. So I actually do function better. I'm going to go against your theory.
Yeah, no, I
actually do function better on high fat. So I reach for the salmon, the egg yolks, the peanut butter. I just find they're more filling, and they make, I work better with them. So
okay, well that's awesome, because I'm a massive fan of kind of the more endomorphic individual. As a generalization, would gravitate more towards a fat-based diet, basically for energy. And you've confirmed that. And that was one of the kind of whole theories of one of my topics of body power. But the topic was, what's evil, fats or carbs? And my key take-home point was, none of it's evil, none of it's bad, but no one's ever really listening to their body to find out what is the optimal ratio. So people will get online and they'll start Googling about, and they'll play around with their calories, and then they'll go, right, this is the perfect set of macros for weight gain, and this is the perfect set of macros for fat loss. And I'm like, no, you need to find out what works for you, and then you manipulate the macros based on how you respond as an individual in terms of your energy and cognition off the back of your macros. And I talked people through a really simple concept, and this is what I teach kids when I go and consult in like athletic environments. I say, look, get a plate, put a portion of protein on it, then put 2 cups of veggies on it, and then one day have a cup of rice, and then the next day have like half a cup of nuts, and tell me which one you felt better on. And then straight away you can find out if you're an individual that works better on fats or works better on carbs, or you might be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes as well you need to give it some time, because it can take time sometimes to become fat adapted. So some people will go, I'll do it for a week, oh no, I feel awful. But actually, if you push past that, that's what happened with me anyway, when I it took a little bit of time, but then once I got there, I felt so much better on fats. So, yeah.
I agree. I'm a huge fat fan as well. I'll spend the first 3 meals of my day eating fats, and then I'll eat sort of carbs in the evening generally, because that's how I cycle my training as well. But yeah, we are all unique individual little flowers.
We are. And there's something about carbs. People feel like it's not a meal if it doesn't have carbs in it. What's that about?
I don't know,
Like, I don't get it. I'll have like salmon and avocado, and everyone's like, well, that's not a meal, is it? Where are your carbs? Where's your rice? Where's your potato? It's so normalised in society now to have carbs to make it a real meal, if you will. So,
but I think that's how our meals have been built for so long, and it's not to say it was a good or a bad thing. Carbohydrates are cheap. we were actually way, way more physical, 50 years ago than we are now. We used to have to frickin' rummage and walk for our food rather than just walk around Tesco's for 2 minutes and pick it up. But yeah, so we would wrap everything in a sandwich, wrap everything with a lacing of potatoes, and when we'd had a hard day at work, that probably would have worked a treat, but we don't anymore. So always match your carbs to your energy intake.
Yes.
So when I was looking through your notes, it mentioned that you were a genetic supplement sponsored athlete. I had no idea. I had no idea. How did that come about, and kind of in what way do you interact with genetic? And I suppose, why do you like genetic? Because I would like to think that there's something about genetic that you like rather than getting given some protein powder.
They are natural. They're not obviously not 100% natural, because there are some sweeteners here and there, but the fact that they're not laced with rubbish, and that's what I love so much about them. You feel better on them. You don't feel bloated. You don't feel rubbish. It came about just because Neil contacted me and said, on Twitter actually, and offered me like a sponsorship. I trialed all the products because I didn't want to just go ahead and say yes, I'll do it. Muscle mousse is the best thing that's ever been invented ever.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely obsessed with the stuff. But no, I think that they're all good quality. They're all, the price, they're not expensive, but they're not cheap. And that for me is important, because I think cheap supplements are cheap for a reason. And I know how much hard work Neil puts into it. I know how, it's all blended on site. It's all, it feels properly much more natural and, good for athletes really looking to really improve.
Well, I suppose the other advantage is actually tested, safe for athletes. So
of course,
that is a big plus for a lot of people. So if you didn't know that, bargain. And I suppose if people didn't know, genetics is someone that I consult for currently, and Load Up, Game Edge are two products that I've had a hand in developing. Massive fan of Load Up. I don't suppose you use it by chance? Yeah, look, there we go.
Load Up is absolutely brilliant. I love it. My boyfriend's a big Sustain man, and I love the Load Up. They're both great. They're both great products, but
cool. Right, well, wrapping up the show.
Yeah.
Just give me an insight as to what you're working on a kind of personal or physical or a business level at the moment. You're obviously competing. Is there anything else cool in your world happening at the moment?
Well, basically, I'm looking to expand my business. That's my main thing. Because obviously, I have the gym. I've had it for a couple of years. We've done really, really well so far. But I'm always going to look to expand and may possibly franchise in the future. It's Dynamite Gym in Loughborough, so if anyone's in the local area, you should come down to my gym. So that's one big goal, and then the other obviously is competitive. I would like a pro card at some point in the future. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen anytime soon, because a pro card's a big deal, but I want to go international. I want to compete internationally and end up having a pro card. So I'm going to keep competing, keep working, hard on building my physique and all of that. So, and then hopefully I'll get there.
Wow. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
I like anyone with big goals. Make them, hustle on them, keep working towards them, keep the vision in sight, and keep the haters at bay.
Definitely.
Well, Serene, if people want to find you online, where should they go?
Twitter's the best one, I think. So I'm at Serene Husseini on Twitter, and I've got my personal website as well, which is serenebodyfit.co.uk. Let's get that right.
I reckon we need to rewind your Twitter. How do you spell that for people?
Okay, so Serene is SERENE, like the word, tranquil, peaceful, and then underscore Husseini, which is HUSSEINI.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being on the show and chatting training, nutrition and everything else.
That's quite all right. Pleasure. Real pleasure.
I hope everything goes well in your next competition. Good luck. For For anyone that is listening to the show, please do me the massive honour of sharing the show on Facebook, Twitter, leaving us a review on iTunes if you haven't. Me and Rachel will be back on the show next week. We will chat everything body power related. We'll potentially talk about something me and Rachel are going to do in December. We'll be answering your questions. And by the way, if you want your question answered on the show, all you have to do is email bencoomber@gmail.com with the subject line podcast. It has to have that in the subject line, otherwise you risk being deleted by my very, very harsh PA who is brutally selective. So yeah, send a question in if you want it answered. If not, that is podcast 86 on a wrap, and I'll see you on podcast 87. Ciao. Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 85. We are in the house, me and Rachel Guy, fit and mean. Here we coming at you with another Q&A show.